This is a public meeting of the City of Tallahassee Independent Ethics Board. It's now called to order, 4 p.m. Tuesday, April 15, 2025. The board members are present here at the Tallahassee Room in the City Hall, along with members of the public. With the assistance of the Communications Department and Information Technology Department, this meeting is live streamed on the Ethic Board website, and we are recording it for future reference. There is a delay with online communications, and we should all be patient. As always, we thank those members of the City of Tallahassee for their support. For those attending the meeting online, please make sure your microphones are muted. We ask the public to email ethics@talgov.com if they wish to speak online on agenda or non-agenda items. Those who have submitted their names will be allowed to speak as scheduled. While the meeting is in progress, please do not speak during the board's discussion. We have set aside 2 places on the agenda for the public to speak. For those who wish to make a public comment, please complete a speaker request form and forward it to the administrative specialist, Ms. Tasker Leverson Green. Be sure to state what you wish to speak about on the form. Public speakers will be given up to 3 minutes in accordance with the board's bylaws. Now we're going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor, could you do the roll call? I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. To the board members, you should have received an email from Director Dwight Floyd. It was very curt. He stated, when you're parking in the parking garage, please ensure you only park in a visitor's parking space. Those are marked in red. Otherwise, your vehicle will be towed. Okay, now we're ready for roll call.
Thank you.
Kristen Costa. Here. Patrick Kelly.
Here.
Rita Calhoun. Caroline Clanky. Adam Commissar.
Here.
Mary Alice David.
Here.
Brian Smith.
Here.
Madam Miss, we have a form.
Thank you very much. All right, next we will have approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at them?
Yeah.
Any concerns or questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Don't move.
Seconded.
Mr. Kelly, motion, and Mr. Commissar, seconds to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Next, we have public comment on agenda items. Do we have any? Moving on to our ethics office report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This will be brief. During this period that's written, the staff delivered ethics training as we do each month to our employees. We continue developing an annual ethics refresher course, which we will talk about in a little while. We met with the city attorney concerning board recommendations, and Attorney Reed will update you on that. And we met with Human Resources and Workforce Development Supervisor to discuss the board. We performed our usual duties and responded to ethics complaints. And then at the bottom there, we have the list of things that we spent money on. And then looking at the budget itself, we've gone down for at least 6 months, and we still have $251,000 left in our budget. I started with 463, so we spent a little over 200,000 in the last 6 months, and that includes traveling and conferences and et cetera. So I don't expect to come close. Any questions about the budget or anything I've said thus far? Okay. Monthly issue tracking, we received 1 sworn complaint from Mr. Stanley Sims. He came by our office. We actually assisted him in filling out the form. We gave it consideration. And basically, he was complaining about the demeanor of the chair of a CRA meeting. It was a city commission member. And none of it was really related to anything that we have jurisdiction over. So we dismissed it, notified him, and notified Ms. Diane Williams Cox, whom the complaint was targeted. We recommend closing this complaint.
Does anyone have any questions about it or would like to know any more information? Make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Mr. Kelly has made a motion and Ms. David has seconded that we recommend closing the complaint for the monthly issue tracking. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you. And then we had these other referrals. I won't go through them unless there's one in particular. It was kind of strange. Within 2 days, I got 2 people with my last name. I did not ask them if they were related. I didn't want to know. But that was very weird. The second gentleman there, spoke with him twice, and he sounded a lot like a sovereign citizen. But it's a county issue and not a city issue. One's a former employee. Another one is a person who was, I guess she felt her husband was being abused in a correctional facility. So I directed her to the correctional facility or to the Criminal Justice and Training Commission. She wanted help. And the one at the top was in another county. We don't have jurisdiction. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Lloyd. Then next we will have our general update.
General update, I have one thing. I sent you a letter that I sent to the Department of Human Resources and Workforce Development. They were concerned about something that they thought we mandated. So I clarified that we don't mandate how they tied the training to salary increases. That's not something that's in the city ordinance. The ordinance simply requires that they take the training once a year, every employee. That's where it begins and ends with us. And so I clarified that in the letter. Then there seems to be a strong push for us to take over managing the learning management system and and transferring the information from the learning management system to people first. The system that they use, that's their personnel system. I explained to them, I gave it to them historically for them to understand how we got to this point. When I got here, we were not writing the training or doing anything with the training. They were writing the training and delivering the training through a vendor. They were paying the vendor. My second year, we wrote the training. They didn't have a learning management system. We assisted them in coming up with a way to deliver the training. And we worked together with the IT department that developed a program that allowed the system to transfer from the platform to PeopleSoft. Then they decided to go with another learning management system, but they didn't have any way to transfer it. They didn't exercise that. So they have had to designate a person to do that. And the other part of it is there is confusion among employees from time to time. There are 2 sets. There are new employees. If they come by a certain time, within a certain period, then they don't have to take the annual training to receive the salary increase in the city policy. If they are an existing employee who's been around, then they have to take the training, take the annual course, 2 different courses, to receive the salary increase. So they get confused. I'm in teaching and I ask, have you taken this training? Do you understand? I try to clarify it when I'm teaching, but sometimes supervisors make them go to the wrong class. So, there's those kinds of problems. And then they're looking for the increase. They don't get it. They're calling, et cetera. It's not something we cause and it's not our issue, but we're glad to work with them on that. And say they designated a person to take the calls and they think that we should receive the calls. When I sent the letter with that 5 minutes, I got a call from the head of the department it was a positive conversation. It remains a positive conversation. And we're looking to meet on the 21st. In the letter, I basically said, we can take it, but we're still going to be looking to solve the problems that haven't been solved. Because it doesn't matter whether they do it or we do it, the problem is the problem. And so that's going to be the conversation. How do we fill the gap between the learning management system and PeopleSoft? So when they complete it, the program says, okay, they completed it. Now you can show it over here, and now you can pay them. And so, because we don't patch things, we fix things. So they give it to us. That's going to be our attitude. We're going to ask the city commission for another employee because it's going to take that. And then, you know, if we use it, if we have it, we'll take advantage of it. It may require the supervisors take additional training and some other things that, since we have that other hand. So that'll be the conversation. Again, not asking you to do anything, just want you to be aware. So if I come back and say, looks like we're going to need another motion, we're going to go to the city commission, you'll know what we're talking about. Okay. That's that update. Any questions about that? Concerns?
Thank you for that update.
Sure.
Next we have the legislative update, Mr. Reed.
Yes, so I promised I would not talk as much as I did last month, so I'll do a very brief overview of the legislation we discussed. There were really two primary, or two bills that primarily dealt with ethics. There was Senate Bill 348, entitled Ethics, sponsored by Senator Don Gates, and House Bill 399, sponsored by Representative Pat Maney. If you recall, this was the top priority of the state commission. This gave them the ability to recoup penalties that have been imposed against state officials or state employees. And it provides a timeline for when penalties become delinquent. It allows the attorney general to become engaged and contact the CFO or governing bodies if they're county or city officials or employees to garnish wages. And that was a top priority of the state commission. It also added language, a new prohibited act on the issue of stolen valor, where you can't say you were in the military when you weren't, or you can't claim to receive some type of award or accommodation when you haven't, or that you've reached some particular rank, or like you can't say you're a Navy SEAL if you were just in the Navy, that kind of thing. So that would be a prohibited act and subject to an ethics complaint. Well, that bill appears to be on its way to passage. It passed the Senate on March 19th, unanimous 39-0. It has passed all of its committees in the House. It's currently sitting on second reading on the floor, where it will essentially, they'll just probably bring up the Senate bill and pass that and send it to the governor. So it looks like that bill will more than likely become law. The other one that we discussed appears to be dead for the year, and this is the it creates a whistleblower protection for filing an ethics complaint. So it protects against retaliation for somebody that brings a state ethics complaint. That bill has not been heard in any committees in either the Senate or the House. So it does not appear it's going anywhere. There is another bill that we discussed that was dealing with the water management district. A lot of it dealt with water management, not really us, but there were some issues where prohibited expenditure made by a lobbyist would be subject to a complaint with the Florida Commission on Ethics. That bill has passed the Senate just less than a week ago, 37-0, and it's in the State Affairs Committee in the House. So it's on its way, but not quite there. Another one was the Public Officers and Employees Bill. This is the one that requires public officers and certain employees within a department to be U.S. citizens and Florida residents. It also defined the term office under that's like section 5A of Article 2 of the Florida Constitution, which prohibits dual office holding. That bill appears to be moving. They did add language that really expands prohibitions on state officials and employees engaging in political activity. So currently, there is statute that prohibits state, county, and local employees from engaging in politics while on the clock. This takes state out of that section, creates a whole new section devoted solely to state officials and employees, and it goes a lot further than what the current law does. They are prohibited from soliciting contributions, even on their own time, on behalf of a candidate. They can't participate in politics during work hours or within a period of time when they're expected to perform services. And then kind of like similar to the other statute, they can't use their authority or influence to interfere with politics. This is kind of the ongoing clash that we're seeing between the legislature and the governor's office, and this appears to be kind of an extension of that. But still kind of an interesting bill to watch, and that's one that we were kind of looking at because of the dual office holding provision, which is still intact. Another bill we discussed was Senate Bill 1066, House Bill 997, which dealt with labor negotiations and unauthorized disclosure of confidential information. Neither of those bills has been heard in the committee, so that appears probably dead for the year. There was another issue that we discussed. It primarily dealt with the Private Whistleblower Act. Senate Bill 1776, Employment Rights, 1601, Labor Regulations. The Senate bill was referred to 3 committees. It's passed 1 committee. It's not agended for its 2nd committee. So that doesn't look good when you're halfway through April. The House bill referred to 3 committees, hasn't gotten a hearing at all. So that bill probably doesn't look like it's going anywhere. One that's probably been in the news a little bit is this higher education bill, Senate Bill 1726. This is the one that implements term limits for State Board of Education and university trustees and revises some of the procedures for hiring college and university presidents. The Senate bill referred to 3 committees, passed 2, not on the agenda. It's currently in rules. It's kind of easy to withdraw a bill out of rules and just take it straight to the floor. So that appears to have some momentum in the Senate. It has passed all of its committees in the House and is on special order calendar tomorrow. So that bill does appear to be moving in the right direction. They did amend the bill, so it takes language that we just discussed about the state officers being U.S. citizens and residents. It puts that in to apply to Board of Governors and university trustees. They have to be a U.S. citizen and they have to be a resident of Florida or a graduate of a Florida university. So there is that ability if they're out of state. It establishes term limits for Board of Trustees at 8 years. It removes, and this is the one that's been in the news, it removes the Board of Governors from the process completely of selecting university presidents. And may recall they removed or they put a public record exemption in presidential searches, which has been a little controversial in the last couple of years. The original bill repealed that public record exemption completely. They've now put it back, but in a limited course. Once they've gotten to no fewer than 3 applicants, then the process needs to be disclosed to the public. So I think the concern in the past is there was one search for a university where everything was done behind closed doors, and when they emerged, they only had 1 candidate. So nobody ever knew who else applied, how they got to the 1 candidate, et cetera. So this is kind of a compromise there. The other 2 that we discussed, government officials influencing broadcasters for political advertisements, that's dead for the year. No committee, didn't have a House sponsor. And then the public service announcement using state funds for public service announcements and a related bill in the House. Both of those have no committee hearings, so they both appear dead for the year. So those are the bills we went over last month. And the 2 big ones, the ethics, one appears on its way to pass, the other one appears like it won't make it.
Thank you very much for that thorough update. Next, we have update on board recommendations. Ms. Reed as well.
Okay. So we did have an opportunity to meet with the city attorney about the recommendations that we have made to the city commission. The city attorney raised some very good issues, and I think we are going to want to flesh out some of the concerns with maybe the state commission on ethics. So we had a 24 ORD 03, which was the definition of covered individuals, and then the 24 ORD 04 was the ordinance that dealt with the doing business with the city or a conflicting contractual or employment relationship. The covered individual, and this is the one I think we want to confer with the state, is we have covered individual. The state has a reporting individual. They're similar, not the same, but similar enough. We've always been concerned about the way the language is written in state statute and in the ordinance. Is that what about a clerical employee that works for a procurement officer that just maybe goes and runs off the copies of all the bids and distributes it to the selection committee for a particular bid? Does that person, because they took part in the process, become a covered individual, and now all of a sudden they fall under the gift ban, et cetera? And that's always been a concern of ours since early on, and I know the city attorneys shared those same concerns. As we discussed it, we said, okay, well, the language we have currently that we're trying to change somewhat mirrors what's in state law. So would we risk now becoming less stringent than what state law provides? And we don't know what the answer to that question is right now, because I think, is there any opinion that's ever addressed that? Our understanding is there's not been, that they've never really had to get to a particular issue where a clerical employee is hit with a complaint. But I think that's something we want to work out with the state commission and see if they've put any thought into it and how we might want to proceed. So we may want to bring that back. Another issue is we added the inspector general to the definition of public officials. We left the city auditor. For some reason, I thought the terms were interchangeable, but I guess they did officially remove city auditor completely, only inspector general. So we may want to just go back and remove city auditor from that. Doesn't really have a practical effect, but just to clean it up a little bit. So that's really the big issues with that first proposed ordinance. And again, we're going to want to speak to probably the deputy executive director, general counsel over at the commission to get his read on that. The other issue was the doing business with. You may recall we drafted, I don't think anybody here would recall except for Smith, but I guess we did initially propose language dealing with doing business with or conflicting contractual relationships. Back in 2019, the city commission chose not to bring it up. They focused on other issues. We did get a very, we did really expand the local ethics code, but that issue was not adopted. We never really pursued it until we had that advisory opinion where the guy wanted to work for the LLC and work directly with the city. And then we said, maybe we do need to put this in the local ordinance. So I think the city's position is it's already prohibited under state law. Is it really necessary at the local level? And that was the argument that was made in 2019. We said that, we kind of felt the same, but then we got this advisory opinion. Now we feel because we received that advisory opinion, it may be necessary just to provide clarity and make sure that employees don't receive some false sense of security to say, oh, I could do this because it doesn't violate the local ethics code, and then inadvertently go out and violate the state ethics code. So that's, I think, something we'll have to continue to discuss. Language that we put in here that is not in state statute, and this is an area where we would be more stringent. And I think there was questions like, why are we doing this? Is it necessary? But it was the language about a city employee shall not solicit any employment or contractual relationship prohibited by this section. That doesn't seem too controversial. But then the next subsection says a city employee must disclose to the city attorney and the ethics board any offer of employment or contractual relationship that is prohibited by this subsection. So there was a question on why that language was there. Is that necessary? Are we going too far? I think when I was drafting this, I just looked at what other local ethics commissions and boards do. And I I don't recall which one it was, but I think one of the big ones had language that provided this duty to disclose that somebody's offered you a job. And I think there was just a concern that maybe that just goes a little too far, and maybe that's not necessary. So that's something we'll just want to continue to discuss with them. And then I think that was it, right? Yeah, and that was really it as far as that. It was, is the entire ordinance even necessary? And if it is necessary, that language about disclosing offers of employment, should that be included or not? So that was the extent of our conversation. I think at this point, we will talk to the state commission, come back, and then we'll see about moving that forward to city committee.
Any questions about the ordinances? Seeing none. The annual ethics refresher training course, Mr. Floyd.
Thank you. I'm gonna do something I haven't done and actually walk you through what we have thus far on the screen. And part of the reason I'm doing that is I sent out for help on some of it. And there were questions and comments, and they were actually good questions. Like, should we also teach about the state and not just about the local, to make them aware? So I'll show you here how we do that. Plus, when I ask for help, be good for you to have background on how the course is structured. On these examples that I have here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I want to end up with about 10 scenarios that I walk them through. It does two things. It refreshes what they should already know, which gives them another opportunity to stamp it in the brain. And it also gives them the opportunity to problem solve some of the, and these are issues, most of these came out of the advisory opinions that we've received in recent years. Then I was just asking you if you think, and you can email me, you don't have to, I'm not gonna put you on the spot now, but if you come up with something that you think would be good to use in the training as a scenario, please share it with me. Help me get to that 10. But I'm gonna, and this won't take long, so don't worry. But I wanted to, just like I said, just kind of walk you through what we've done up to this point. And so I'm just gonna kind of do it. And I'm gonna pretend that Peter Brucine is taking the test. So I'm gonna use his name without his permission. Peter, you don't mind, do you? So Peter is taking the course. So Peter, why do you want to be a city employee? Is it for the benefits, the salary, retirement?
You asking me?
Yeah,
To serve.
to serve. All
I
right.
could have answered that one.
All right, here we go.
Hello, and welcome to this course. Some people believe that ethics cannot be taught, and that people are the product of their upbringing and cannot be changed. Contrary to that thinking, this course is not about changing your behavior. It is about living up to ethical standards that best serve the interests of the city of Tallahassee and the people we serve. You say that you joined the city to serve the public. Most become city employees because of the pay, benefits, or retirement package. Very few take employment with the city strictly to become a public servant. Yet, you are a public servant. You are the eyes, ears, arms, and legs, the face of the government. And when Tallahassee residents say that they don't trust our local government, they are speaking about you, me, the city officials, and all the other employees. So we should do everything we can to earn and maintain their trust. As leaders, the elected officials, appointees, managers, directors, and supervisors should exemplify the ethical standards written in the city policies, Florida statutes, and the ethics code, and equally avoid the appearance of impropriety. Our leaders should be an example for city employees, volunteers, and vendors, and they should hire and promote people who best emulate good ethical behavior. Ethical standards are written in the city policies, city ordinance, Florida statutes, and the ethics code. And the public have their own set of standards. We should consider these standards every time we make a decision that impacts our city. Let's review. The Ethics Code distinguishes between what is called covered individuals and all other employees. Covered individuals include elected officials and their aides, appointed officials, City Commission appointed members of advisory boards, commissions, or committees, employees with purchasing approval authority of $35,000 or more, city officials and employees required to file a financial disclosure form, and procurement employees. Are you a covered individual? Take a moment to decide.
And Peter, I know you're not a covered individual.
The misuse of position is an ethical standard in the city ordinance that applies to elected city officials, appointees, and employees. We should never use our position or city resources, perform our official duties, or fail to perform our official duties in a manner inconsistent with the proper performance of our duties, resulting in the special privilege, benefit, or exemption for oneself or others.
And what we try to do with these, we don't put it in the legal terms. We're trying to put it in layman terms where people can receive it, quickly understand it, and communicate it.
The use or disclosure of non-public information is an ethical standard in the city ordinance and only applies to covered individuals. However, it is also in the Florida statutes and applies to everyone. We should not use or disclose for personal gain non-public information, which includes information that is not available to the public even if they request it, and is gained as a result of our position.
And that even if they request, just another way of saying, if it's a public record, then it's not non-public information.
The solicitation or acceptance of gifts is an ethical standard in the city ordinance and only applies to covered individuals. Covered individuals may not accept any gift of any value from a lobbyist, vendor, or leasee, unless they are a relative. The acceptance of gratuities is an ethical standard in city policy. If you are not a covered individual, then this gift policy applies to you. City employees, excluding those in specific roles, are permitted to accept gifts valued at up to $100 from any individual vendor, contractor, or supplier. What do we mean when we say the public has its own ethical standards? Most residents are unfamiliar with the ethical standards in the Florida statutes, city ordinances, and city policies. However, their ethical concerns and principles often stem from personal values rather than formal guidelines. While meeting every individual's personal standard is unrealistic, addressing actions that could create an impression of impropriety is vital, as such appearances can undermine public trust. Many people think the Tallahassee Independent Ethics Board exists only to investigate acts violating the city's ethics code. In reality, we would prefer to never have to investigate because everyone is doing the right thing and making good decisions. Though we cannot make that assumption, we believe a big part of our role is to help employees make right decisions. These decisions are good for the community and you because they keep you out of trouble. If you haven't heard about it, the Ethics Board issues something called advisory opinions. You can actually call or email the ethics office with a question and/or scenario and receive advice on something you are in the process of doing or thinking about. Let's test it. Through a series of scenarios, we're going to hear from city employees who have questions about something they are doing or propose to do. For each scenario, you're going to help give advice. It is a way to refresh what you should already know while learning something new.
I go to lunch once a month with a friend who is a lobbyist. The ethics code says that I cannot accept gifts from lobbyists. Do I have to stop sharing lunch with my friend?
Yes or no? No. Okay.
You responded no. under the circumstances presented, you would not have to stop sharing lunch with your lobbyist friend. But for that to be true, we would have to apply certain conditions. So, let's change the circumstances. There are several conditions under which the employee can continue to share lunch with their friend. Can you identify the conditions that would allow the employee to continue having lunch with their friend? Select all that apply.
What are they?
$100.
Okay, say $100.
Each person pays for them.
Each person pay for their own meal. Any other?
Yeah, won't fly.
Okay. So someone says they all. And no matter where you click, to be honest with you, it's going to go to the next slide. One of the tricks, Trey.
You are correct if you said the employee could continue to
That's
have
good. Haven't
lunch with
put
the
the picture in
lobbyist
there yet.
if he
She did
or
most
she
of
is a
this.
relative.
Most
As an
of the illustrated
exception,
stuff
the
she did.
Ethics Code allows city employees to accept gifts from lobbyists, vendors, or leases when they are relatives. It is impractical to think otherwise. Did you say it is okay if the meal is under $100? If so, be reminded that city officials and employees cannot accept a gift of any value from a lobbyist. It is common practice to pay for one's own meal when faced with situations like this, but you can also pay for your meal and the lobbyist. Or you can pay for each other's meal as long as the amount paid by the lobbyist is not greater than the amount you pay for their meal. In other words, if you pay $20 for the lobbyist's meal and she or he pays $50 for yours, then the difference, $30, would be considered a gift to you, which violates the ethics code. Good job. Now let's hear from another employee.
I rented an apartment, and when asked, I told the landlord that I worked for the city. Because I work for the city, he gave me a discount. He said he does it for all city employees. Is it okay for me to accept the discount?
And I should tell you, I did what I did. I'm looking for feedback on whether I got it right or not. On some of these, I haven't done anything, and I want people I'm reaching out to, I want them to respond to it like it was an advisory opinion. Then I'll create the narrative around proper response. So none of this is final. I'm just putting something. I did click it, right? The answer is yes. Where are you? Oh, you know what? I'm looking up there. I look right now.
You answered no. Are you familiar with the discounts Verizon and Avis offer to city and state employees? Agreed upon through a state contract, all city employees may receive discounts on their personal accounts when doing business with these vendors. There is a legal phrase that makes this possible. Do you know the phrase? Give it a try. Or click I don't know.
Anybody but John, what's the phrase?
What the parents live required. Is this a test?
Okay.
Because all employees have equal access, they are similarly situated, and this does not constitute a gift. There is no violation of the ethics code. This may apply in scenarios such as a registered city vendor offering discounts to all law enforcement officers. However, it may not extend to cases where a vendor provides free tickets to a select group of employees, such as a handful receiving passes to a college football game. If you find yourself in a similar situation and are uncertain about the ethical implications, you should consult the ethics officer for guidance.
Hello, my name is Regina. I received approval to attend a conference in Atlanta. After completing my registration, a city vendor contacted me and invited me to an evening gathering at the conference. It is not related to the conference. The event includes complimentary food and beverages. I'm very interested in attending. Should I attend the gathering?
Before answering, let's ask Regina some questions. Regina, are you a covered individual?
I am not sure. Can you help me with that?
Well, you are not a city official or aide, and you are not an appointee. Are you required to file a financial disclosure? Or do you have the authority to approve purchases of $35,000 or more?
No and no. I am too low on the food chain for that.
One more question. In the last 12 months, have you been involved in any way with a city purchase of $10,000 or more? That would make you a procurement employee.
Well then, I guess I'm not a covered individual.
Thank you, Regina. Regina has been approved to attend a conference. A city vendor invited her to a private gathering not related to the conference. Food and beverages will be served. Regina is not a covered individual. Should Regina attend the evening get-together?
Somebody said yes. And two people said yes. I think, John, you said good for Regina. Yeah. Because she's not a covered individual.
Yeah, like that.
What about the state? Would she violate anything with the state?
So did the statement or the city?
The city vendor. Okay. Because those are kind of things I'll need help with. And I could study it and figure it out, but
Now we will hear from a code enforcement officer who wants to know if taking an outside job would be a conflict of interest.
My name is Evan, and I am a case management specialist in code enforcement. A registered city vendor who provides repair services to residents following the issuance of non-compliance notices has offered me a part-time position. My role would involve reviewing the company's documentation to ensure it aligns with code enforcement's requirements before submission to the city. Am I permitted to accept this job?
and the city would have something to say about this too. So we'll have to speak to the ethics code and then remind them of city policy. That they have to check with the city along with on this one. And I'm just showing you a scenario. I haven't done anything with it yet.
Greetings. As a city appointee, I frequently receive invitations to attend special local events. I am deeply honored that a local university has invited me to deliver a speech at their graduation ceremony. They have offered to compensate me for speaking. Should I accept the payment, or must I speak without compensation?
Can he speak? Can he accept the compensation? Or do you need?
Why was he asked to speak?
He's an appointee, so he's going to be a covered individual.
Honorarium?
Expenses, or he's being like covered expenses, or he's being.
So when I reach out for you, I need you to put all those in your email. So I ask him those questions.
Okay.
And we come up with an answer. That's how it's, and I want to show you, that's as far as we've gotten. That's where we are up to this point. And when you receive this, actually, see this arrow right here? If you have a question or comment or advice, you can put it in here.
And that's on each one we can.
Yes, each one. If I send it to you that way, you can comment right in there.
Okay.
Okay. Some of the questions was, and I think I haven't really thought about it till the question was asked. There might be times when we need to make sure we don't set them up by saying it's okay for us. We got to make sure it's okay with the state. We don't have to go through the state thing, but they may need to be aware that there might still can be an issue with the state or city. Those comments like that. I am planning on showing my face briefly, but I think it's just from my experience, it's more important that the voice sounds like somebody they can relate to, an employee. And the biggest secret is every voice and person up there is not real.
I was gonna ask, it's AI.
Yes, all of that. Every person is an avatar, and the voice is generated through software. And what that allows us to do is move faster. If I use my voice, I have to record, fix, re-record, all of that. So we can go faster this way and focus on the things that are most important. But I'll make sure they see my face, but I don't want them to have too much of me because they see me Tasker doing training. So we're just trying to achieve some balance. Any questions about the training?
I have a question.
Sure.
So you just type in what you want them to say, you write the script, and then that just,
Mhm. It's-
person A says these words with accent. Okay, very,
Yes,
very
yes,
interesting.
yes,
Thank you.
yes. And then it's actually, we use three different softwares, or two different softwares before we actually get it into the program that runs it for us.
Are you going to send us a different link, or do you want us to use this draft stage link?
You can use that link. And, I may update it from time to time, but it'll still be that link.
All right, any questions on that training course? All right, seeing none, do we have any public comment on non-agenda items?
None.
All right, so the directives that I have is that we're going to meet with the State Ethics Commission regarding the ordinances. And then a board member directive is that we take a look. If you had comments, you can click them. If not, look over it again and give Mr. Floyd some comments on the training. Any other directives that I missed? All right, seeing none.
So,
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Commissar moves to adjourn and Mr. Kelly seconds. All those in favor, aye. All opposed? Okay, we are adjourned at 4:51.
good, thank you.